Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about drills and drivers and what you can do with them. This is a drill that I mainly use for drilling holes into wood, drywall, metal, and sometimes brick. This one is an impact drill that I use for driving all of my screws. The way that it's made helps you keep your drill bit inside the screw head without jumping out the way this one does. And if you've ever driven a screw with one of these, you know that if it's a tough screw, when you pull the trigger, it tends to go like this on you. This one does not do that because of the way it's made, because it's an impact. They've kind of crossed over from mechanics to woodworking. So both of these can both drill holes in things as well as drive screws, but like I said, this one's better for holes, this one's better for screws, but you can buy bits for both. They do have different bits because they have different chucks. This is mainly made for round bits because you can open up the end or close the end depending on the width of your drill bit, whereas this one is one size and it's a hex head. This collet pulls back and you put your bit in, and so I'll show you what types of bits do what and how I use these day to day. So this drill I mainly use for drill bits that I have that have a round end that goes into the chuck. They do make different types of bits, all different types of bits with different ends. And they may make the exact same bit with the opposite end, like these two. So this one I can use in this drill. This one I can use in this drill. But this one cannot, this round one cannot be used in an impact drill. It does not have the proper end like this one does. So I usually use this for, like I said, for holes with smaller drill bits or that have the round end, and also for, this is a hole saw for drilling out big holes in wood, drywall, plastic, whatever you might have that's not metal, that's not concrete. Although they do make hole saws for concrete, this is just not one of them. I would use this drill with this end, even though it looks like this end that could be used in this more powerful impact driver. But the reason I can't is that this is larger than what will fit in the impact driver. So I cannot put that in there. It doesn't fit. So I would use that on here. And the way that you put a drill bit in here is you take your bit with the mounting edge, so your pointed edge is away from the drill. You put it in the collet, and then you twist this part here while you hold this bit, and it tightens up in there. Now that it's tight, you can go forward or backwards. And when I turn mine on just slightly, I get a little light that comes out to help me see my workpiece. And you always want to drill with a bit like this, or any kind of drilling bit. You always want to drill forwards. That's the little forward marker there. So that's actually clockwise. So this is how you drill a hole. You see, I'm controlling it with the speed with the trigger. I just pull it out to get it out. I can control the speed with the trigger. I can go from pulling a little bit, and having a little bit of speed to a lot more. And it also has a slower setting. This is on the higher setting, number 2. This is a lower setting. It kind of sounds the same. It's not spinning as fast, and there's a little bit more power to it. You can also change your power settings of how much drilling power you need by these buttons here. Whichever button lines up with this arrow here is your amount of power. You can go from as much power as the drill will give you to barely any at all, just by twisting this piece here. There's not a lot more features than that on the drill itself. Besides the battery, this is an 18-volt Makita. I like the 18 volts because they give me enough power, and they do make a 12-volt, but that's probably for smaller projects. And as a professional, I just prefer more power, so I like these. So the differences between the two are definitely what bits it can or cannot hold. Like I mentioned before, this impact driver cannot hold rounded bits, where this one, it'll hold rounded bits all day. With this impact driver, I use it to drill all of my screws in. It gives me way more power, and even if I don't need a lot of power, it still helps me, because of the way it's made, keep my drill bit, or my driving bit, I should say, in the screw head. And let me show you what I mean by that. So I can take a screw and screw it in, and you hear how it ratchets. That sound it's making is it ratcheting. Now that one made it flush with the wood's surface. So I'm going to take it out and show you what it's like to drill it with, to screw it in with one of these, and what the difference is. Now, if you have one of these are essential. This is the one I use mostly day to day with everything I do, because I have a lot of different drill bits, and they all have the proper end for it, the quick release end for this. So I can swap my bits out no problem without having to tighten anything. I just pull this collet out just slightly, and it releases the bit. I do like to have the two of these together, just so I have like a pre-drill bit set up, and then I can drive my screws in. And the reason that I pre-drill into wood pretty much every single time is so that it doesn't split apart. Where is my pre-drill? Here it is. This is an example of one. So they drill however much you need. These are adjustable. So they drill in however much you need for the screw shaft itself. And then they have this part here is called a countersink, because it will make a hole so that the screw head can sink into either flush or just beyond flush in whatever you're screwing the screw into. So again, the reason for the pre-drill in wood is to make sure your wood does not split. And this is how I do it. Take my pre-drill on the highest setting, and I go like this. Doesn't really matter how fast or slow you go, as long as you don't put too much pressure. Check your hole, make sure that it's going to accommodate your screw head. This is what the hole looks like. And you want to just check and make sure that the depth of your hole for setting the head in is going to be deep enough. So this looks like I'm going to go just a little bit deeper. I do put a little downward pressure. It really helps. Okay, now that I've got that just a hair deeper, I can go ahead and use my driver. See that? And with this drill, it has this impact driver. Sorry. It's got so much power that that screw would probably keep traveling through that board. See how much it traveled all the way through the bottom of the board. So these are really made for driving home screws. If you have something to build with and you're screwing it together, you're going to thank me if you got yourself an impact driver. Just get yourself impact bits. It is essential for me to have both of these, like I said, but I mainly use the impact driver. Also, When you're driving screws, especially small ones, if you have a small screw like this, or you're putting hardware in on something and you need to screw it in, you want to get yourself a magnetized bit. You see that? Because nothing is worse than having to hold the screw on the end of the drill and your hardware while you're trying to screw it in. You simply do this and you can go upside down, all around, still screw it in every time, where that would not happen if this was not magnetized. And this is called a sleeve, just this. And it's made to hold bits, such as in this set. This here's a Milwaukee set, all different types of bits. Phillips head, square drives, and this bigger screw that I drilled in is a T25. These are great fasteners, great bit. Use this. You're not going to strip screw heads. So here is a set of hole saw bits. Believe it or not, you can cut a round hole with a saw. So the way these work is you pick out what size hole you want. I believe this goes from 3/4 to 2.5. You take this thing here and screw it in. And then you put this hole saw is, as I mentioned before, this is too big to fit in our impact driver. So we're going to use the drill. So we put this on here like this, tighten this chuck down. I usually do this just by pulling the trigger, but just in case you are not familiar with one of these yet, I want to make sure that you're being safe. So nice and tight. And then okay. So there's lots of different bits you can use. And one of my favorite ones to use is with sockets. These are actually called nut drivers. These are not actual sockets, but they work like a socket. So where you can tighten things up. I use this for barn door tracks when I'm on the job to screw those in nice and tight, so I'm not over there with a socket wrench. Then there's fun ones like this. This is a pencil sharpener. There you go. So as you can see, there's a different drill bit made for everything you'd like to do, even a lot more that I don't have here. One thing, if you don't know, they do make drill bits. It's not a drill bit at all. It actually just fits into either one of these, and it might have a brushing attachment or things like that, which make cleaning things or polishing things or even sanding discs. There's just a ton of different bits out there. These are super important to have at your home, or if you do projects at all, because you're always going to have to tighten something up, put a new screw in, hang a picture. So you would want to put in some sort of anchor, possibly, if you're not going into a stud. So there's so many things that these are necessary for. I wouldn't be able to do any of my projects without these two tools right here. Now, there's a ton of brands out there too. Different sizes. You really need to, when you pick out what drills you might like, or set of drill and driver, it's really good to go down and put the tools in your hand. See how it fits your hand. A lot of these tools, most tools are made for a man-size hand. And having a smaller hand, it sometimes gets kind of complicated when I search for tools. So I know personally that the Makita brand in the 18 volt is perfect for me. I do kind of steer away from any tools that need 2 batteries, because like their skill saw, it's just too heavy. So make sure you go and you feel what this weight is, and that'll help you decide also if that's going to work for you. You want to be comfortable adding tools to your toolbox, and give yourself the confidence by knowing that it's something you can handle. It's not already too heavy. It does make a difference.